Hello and welcome to the Reach Out for Mental Health podcast. I'm Stu Whiffin, joining me always, Kirsty Eaton. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
That was formal.
It was a bit. How you
Yeah,
doing? All right? You all right? How you doing? All right?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Where are you today? You on the boat?
I'm on the boat today. Yeah, as you can see, I haven't got the fire blanket behind me today. I thought I'd go for the
Nice
William Morris
effort.
curtains. Ooh.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we've got a guest today, and we've just established via a chat that you know each other from many moons ago. Uh, she's also been a friend of mine for as far back I can remember now. It's the super duper Jordan Gray. Hello.
Good day and bonjour. I'm not on a boat.
You're not on a boat. Where are you?
Jealous of that. I'm in a bedroom that I occupy on a quite common basis, as it is my bedroom. But definitely my bedroom doesn't float. I didn't realize he was on a boat, and was quite sweet because Stu, presumably you and Kirsty, you do this a lot, so you recognize those curtains. But it's really funny the way you said, because Kirsty's got curtains behind you. He was like, "I'm on a boat, obviously." Something obvious about that situation. The camera isn't like leaning to the side or anything. Just some curtains.
Just an anchor, just that shot.
Seagull just flies in and hits the camera. I didn't know boats even had curtains. This is every day's a school day.
Yeah,
It is,
absolutely.
yeah.
Kirsty normally got a parrot on her shoulder, so
I'm giving you straight off the bat a little exclusive about something I'm up to. I'm working on this project for a big streamer, and I want a parrot in it. Like I want not a talking parrot. I'm just like it will talk, but it won't understand human language. But then we pitched it to the streamer, and their eyes just rolled. My exec was like, "Why didn't you tell me we were pitching them a parrot? That's like the most stupid and like unnecessary and expensive thing." They just looked like, "Oh, great! So we're spending half the budget on a parrot, are we? And a parrot wrangler." Like, well, I want it now. Now I've written it. My heart's set on this parrot.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, look, Jordan, we always start this podcast the same way. And if I was to say to you the words mental health, what do you instantly think?
My thought cerebrally is work. I think of it as work, not in a bad way. I like work. Emotionally, I feel guilty when I hear that because I think I neglected my mental health for a long time. But then those two things go together, don't they? You know, you feel guilty because you don't want to put the work in, and then you feel really proud afterwards. I've yet to reach that feeling of feeling very proud of the work I've done on my mental health. But yeah, certainly, uh, it's not always the most fun thing to dive into, but gosh, it's worth it. I don't know why I wasn't. I stopped myself from saying the word God. God, it's worth it. God's good. Nothing wrong with God.
What have you done? What input have you put into your mental health?
I remember learning. I was so fascinated when I learned that the coping mechanisms that people have can be. I mean, how long's a piece of string? There's lots of different sort of flavors of it, but the ideas of some people, instead of dealing with trauma, they deflect, and some people regress, and then there's like a list of 6 or 8 things that are like really common defense mechanisms. And I realized that I regress every time at the tiniest little thing. So anything that upsets me, I sort of just turn into a child again. Not like, and I think I was quite an annoying child as well. So I just become
do you regress back to colours, back to your 13th birthday party?
Back to Colours nightclub on my 13th birthday. And but here's the thing: when you work in the entertainment industry, regression is sort of like such an infantilizing job anyway, that I've never had to do any work on myself. So I just become like I don't think I become spoiled. I just become really like, I could become like a child and expect to be looked after and everything when things go wrong. So that was hard work to be like, oh, I've got to be a grown up in an industry that is sort of treated like and expected to behave like children. You know, a lot of my job is just to show up and play and be silly. So I never grew up, and that felt like it's not a nice feeling, is it, when you realize there's something about yourself you didn't know and everybody else kind of knew, or that was perhaps not a very admirable quality, and to suddenly realize you've got that. Truth is, most people probably don't care, but it suddenly hit me like, oh, I really thought I knew myself. Turns out I'm just a big child. Well, that's not bad, is it? There's lots of big children of various ages.
And talking of sort of regression and childhood, like, is there a moment, if you had to look back, where there was a moment in regards to your mental health, Jordan, where you just thought, I don't feel right today?
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, yeah. I do. I remember being. I remember lying in bed and figuring out. Okay, we'll do a little disclaimer at the beginning of this so parents can switch off with their kids. The day I figured out that Santa and God and Superman were all made up constructs in people's minds. Um, that's a disclaimer for
Sorry,
children,
what?
fans of superheroes, and people of religious belief whom I respect and love. But the day I figured all that out at the same time, it was just like that feeling of you're sort of brought up to believe that the world outside your door is like, depending on your upbringing, is like Disneyland and everything's colorful and lovely. And when you grow up, everything's going to be good because that's what your parents want for you. And just finding out that all the sort of tentpole constructs of that weren't true just sent me into a proper little spiral. Just became really like obsessed with trying to figure out the objective truth of things.
How old would you have been?
Like 7 or 8. It was before going to big school. Oh, so yeah. How old are you when you go to what's year 7? You're 10 years old, aren't you, when you go to year 7 or whatever? So I was 8 or 9. And I had a horrible dream that oh God, this really proper like set me on such a life path. I had a dream the day before big school, big school, that there's 2 doors and one of them was heaven and one was hell. And I opened one and it was all white and it had all my favorite cuddly toys in it. I was like, oh, it's heaven, brilliant. I'm gonna go in there. And I went in and closed the door and it was like a 4 by 4 foot room and the door locked and I could never escape. And I was like, oh, I got tricked. That's hell. Like it's just the illusion of heaven because it was all shiny and white, but it's hell and I'm claustrophobic and I'm going to die. And I managed to get out and I went into the other door, which was this big fiery forest, which you'd think was hell, but it was loads of room to run and play. And I was like, God, my little 8-year-old brain is working overtime to like teach me some sort of lesson I don't understand. But I just remember becoming obsessed with objective reality, and that doesn't gel well with mental health because, of course, mental health is about these carnivorous, like sort of carnal, roaring feelings that are living inside you, and you're supposed to give them as much credence and like steer them. But when you're just obsessed with things being objective, you end up as one of those, I don't know, those little 14-year-olds that's just obsessed with like Jordan Peterson and Richard Dawkins and Ricky Gervais and everything else falls at the wayside, and it's all just about, you know, you become like a militant atheist. I remember going through that phase. That's not good for a little kid's mental health.
That's quite a complex thought process for a 7-year-old, Jordan.
I was quite a little, you know, like we're like most people. We all think we're like that lonely kid, but everyone is that little lonely kid. I wish kids could just come up to, that would be so nice if kids could just come up to each other and go, I'm lonely. And then everyone's like, I'm lonely as well. Odd. We get worse at it. Actually, I don't know. Do we get worse at telling each other we're lonely as we get older?
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
I'd disagree. I'd say it gets easier.
Oh,
no.
Good thing you're in different locations because that got heated. Oh, oh my God.
Well, this is
guys.
my perspective.
Yeah.
No, for obviously the kids, it's so free that you can go up to a kid. Like, I love it with Nancy. She'll go up to a kid that she doesn't know in a playground and just say, will you play with me or will you be my friend?
Yeah.
Old people, we've kind of got this acceptance that older people are isolated and that they're lonely, and you've got these phone lines and groups that are set up to help them connect and not feel so socially isolated. But it's in your 30s and your 40s where we're all becoming disconnected, and we find it hard to make new friendships or better friendships, because to admit that you're lonely or that you don't have a great set of friends at, you know, in your 30s and 40s, it's really quite, you know, frowned upon. You know, you should be set by now, you know. That's just my perspective.
Like we've resigned ourselves to the fact that the illusion of it being harder to make friends. I mean, there is the objective truth to that, but you can just go out and ask someone to be your friend. We just don't want to because we're scared. We just resign ourselves to that, don't we? So it's like we don't expect it, and most people won't go after stuff they don't expect. You know, we don't want to start something that we're not going to be very good at. I hate doing things like I will never even start something if I don't think I'm going to be halfway good at it, and that will include a friendship or asking someone. I just won't even ask. When's the last time you asked someone to be your friend? Like, it is such a nice
when
feeling.
You're a kid.
Yeah.
Surely, yeah.
Even to talk to someone. God, there's this one comedian called Emmanuel Sanubi. He's doing really well for himself. He's the only person I know that calls you up for a chat with no context. When you're in this industry, you get a call from someone, you're like, oh, fair enough. They want a favor or they've got an opportunity. It's only that. He called me up the other day. He's like, you all right? I was like, yeah, what's wrong? Sorry, what's up? He's like,
what's up?
Just making a bacon sandwich. All right, well done. Is it like you pitching me a podcast about bacon sandwiches? No, just make a bacon sandwich. I sort of wanted to tell him to go away, but a little bit of me is like, this is a really special moment that I need to savor because it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I get that. I totally understand.
I think it's safe to say, through knowing you both and knowing where we spent our formative years, we've come from quite similar sort of backgrounds and environments. Jordan, how do you think where you grew up and your sort of and class has affected, how you sort of perceive yourself, and I guess that can have a knock on to, your mental health?
Yeah, man. Money's like, it's the best and worst thing. And if you don't have it, you think about it all the time. And if you do have it, you think about it all the time. So money itself is like, it's just a weird conduit through which our emotions play out. But growing up not with much money, I think you do, I don't know, maybe this is projecting, but you form closer connections with people because that currency is the time that you spend with each other, quality time, love language being quality time. I don't know what my love language is. I don't think it's quality time, but it's always nice when you get to spend quality time with people.
Can you just explain a little bit about love language to listeners that
I love that. I was going to talk to you about that, Stu, because someone told me about this the other day. I love it.
Yeah, Kirsty, do you want to you jump in? Well, let's do love language stuff. It's nice.
Oh God, I was only literally told about it a couple of weeks ago by a mutual friend of Stu and I's, actually. Yeah, I didn't realise that people communicate and show their love and affection for one another through different types of language. So yeah, but like there's 5, isn't there?
There's 5. Let's go, right. We'll try and knock them off. You say some and I'll fill in the gaps if I remember. So there's definitely is one, quality time. I've given you that. You're going home with that. Now you can take that or you can play for the big money. Well, what's the next one?
Affirmations, positive affirmations.
That's like people saying nice things to you. That's my one, definitely. Right.
Doing things around the house, like doing things, tasks.
Acts of service. That's the one. Acts of service. You got this. You know what you're doing. Right. What's something you're doing right now to your face? What's this? Physical touch. That's it. I mean, listeners of the podcast, it's just if you're listening, Kirsty touch their face. Right. And then there's so what we've done, the acts of service, say nice things, touch each other in nice ways, say nice things to each other. Oh, it's quality time. And gifts, giving of gifts.
Yes.
Yeah, like, which is an odd one to end with. Also materialism.
Exactly. That's kind of where it started, really, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, so growing up, I mean, it's maybe those, yes, basically, if you've got money or you've not got money, those love languages as presets are going to mean different things, even depending on the person that you are. Physical touch probably never goes away. That's always nice, even if you're an otter or a hamster. Physical touch is a nice thing between any sort of a mammal. But if you've got money, giving of gifts is perhaps...
Sorry, Jordan, I just want to shout out otters. Like... Big up the otters, because like people always talk about other animals, and I feel that like they get a bit of a tough rap, like the otter, because they're super cool. Like
I love otters. They are the only creature I believe they're the only mammal. What the fuck are we? Screw it.
Do you know what? I'll tell you what you need to do, Jordan.
Yeah.
When you finish this podcast, you need to phone up your comedian, mate, and just go, thought I'd phone up for a chat about otters.
And you know what? Straight away we'll go, I can't understand what you're saying because you're from Essex and you can't pronounce the word otter properly.
Otter.
You and me saying it, I was like, no one knows what animal we're saying. Otter.
Otter. Oh dear.
You've probably got one outside. You've probably got one outside your house right now, Kirsty.
Do you know what we have? There is suspicions that we have an otter because we see some odd prints in the mud outside.
There's an odd prince outside.
Elusive, though. Yeah.
All right. It's got a hierarchy going on.
We got sidelined by otters.
No, we didn't. No, you can never be sidelined by otters, Stu. It is the name of the game. Yeah. So as you've got money, if you've got money, gift giving is not just that it's more possible, but it's perhaps more expected. And so that love language maybe it would perhaps be difficult to. Oh no, but then saying that, if you grow up and you've got both parents working, so you've got loads of money coming in, but there's not that much physical touch or acts of service or quality time, gifts are perhaps the only way that you can receive love. We just blown this thing wide open. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's the take-home message. But having money does affect different things. So my being brought up in working class town, I got that thing what I think a lot of entertainers get, which is oh, it's grim and bleak to a certain extent. So you get that feeling of wanting to get out, and to get out without money means you have to be undeniably good at what you do, which is almost a thing you can never reach, that you have to hit some level of perfectionism that can transplant you from the town that you live into another town. It's almost like dreamlike thing.
Can I talk about this, because this is something that, you know, as like you know, we both strive for success in the music industry. You achieved much more than what I did, and I guess whether what you want to call podcasting, whether it's a broadcast, I don't know, but the arts, for me, when I look at sort of acting, there was nobody at my school called Benedict Cumberbatch. There was no one at my school called Edward Thomas Hardy, and there wasn't them people at my school. And so, you know, watching you when you was playing, and you would often play at the venues that I was working at, you know, there wasn't much money in that, and to sort of, and I'm always interested how class affects this, because the thought that if you're privileged to a level where your parents can pay your rent, and so you don't have to work, so you can just go to auditions, or you can just go and write songs or band practice, or, you know, how did that work for you? Like, how did you, you know, did you feel like more driven by the fact that you was coming from a working class family, from an area that not necessarily projects glamour and success in the arts, although we know that there is lots, but a lot of it doesn't make it through. So did that push you further, like, harder?
Yeah, you know, if your preset in life is you're born with this 100%, like every fiber of your DNA is grasping to be loved, and then you attach the idea of love to success in what you do, which a lot of people do, which I've done. Not good for your mental health, not healthy, but you can retroactively fix that. Let's get to that in a bit. Once you've got that feeling, you're on 100%. Now, if you've got two people at 100%, one's born with no money, one's born with loads of money, you hit success a lot faster if you've got money, for the most part, and you don't have to excel any further. So perhaps things slow down. So it's a double-edged sword. If you're desperate for success, but you're not in a position for loads of people to see you, or to be able to go to auditions and things, all you've got to do with your time is to try and get better and better and better, and hope that you become so undeniably good at what you do that word reaches these like lofty peaks. And I think that's what a lot of working class people, you just hear a working class people break through, and their sound is so raw, or their material is so refined, because all they've got is time. Suddenly that's the currency, you know. It's like, that's all we've got to do is practice. But then, yeah, it's really easy to sort of dehumanize people with money as well, but it's not their fault they got money. So some people it's not their fault, some people it's very much their fault. They just want the same things, but the opportunities are there, and that's a weird kind of ennui that they get as well. I've got some money now, let's just like put cards on the table. I'm way less happy than I was because I got some money, but thankfully I've got loads of things I still want to achieve. If I didn't have anything I want to achieve, was it Charlie Chaplin said, I can think of nothing more horrific than to be completely content? It's like, the money's not made me any happier. It's just allowed some more opportunities. Thank goodness I've got ideas. Those are the real currency. If I've got ideas, and the money will make them happen. When I run out of ideas, I should be, yeah, that'll be it. Money doesn't help with those at all. You can't pay for an idea.
I completely agree, Jordan. Completely agree. I think any time that I've ever sort of made any money in anything, it's just gone straight back in the pot to facilitate another stupid idea that I just think, this might be fun. Like, I wonder if I could make this fun thing a job. And I think that's what, I don't know. I'm always intrigued with people that have success in the arts, that certainly people whose journey I've watched closely. I just find it fascinating, and I know how hard it is to reach any level of success in the arts, let alone reach it in music, and then reach it to the level that you've achieved in comedy. You know, it's absolutely incredible, and yeah.
Thank you for saying that, man. You know what's really lovely, and let's keep it on mental health. Let's be talking about mental health. is look, you know, like the metaphors that that fit athletes use and fighters use and things when they talk about it, you try to get to that, you try to reach the fail, like in the gym you try to get to the point where you fail. Such a wonderful philosophy for life. If you're at 100% all the time, the things that I've hit a wall and I've got to know, they used to, obviously they're devastating because you haven't got that many opportunities. When the opportunities start to come and you start to hit some no's, it's like all it feels like is a steer towards something else rather than you being flung back. Like it's the no's I've got have been the best things that have happened to me now because it steered me towards doing something else. But that's just a wonderful philosophy to have in life, a wonderful way to frame your life. Like it depends what you mean by a no, but basically if you don't get something you want, that's just an invitation to go a different way around or to do something else. And what a great opportunity to be given some direction. Actually, to be given some direction. Let's talk about this. Of the three of us, how many of us knew what we wanted to do from as long as we can remember? And have we ever spent any time in a period of like, I actually don't know what I'm going to put my energy into, not just creative but professionally, or feel like you've had that choice taken away from you? Have you ever spent any time thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do? So I've never spent any time being like, I actually don't know what I'm going to do, which is a privilege. That's not on me. That's just something that's happened to me. I've always known what I'm going to do. There's people that go through life, different circumstances, and they spend time, they don't know what they're going to do. And that's something no amount of money can give you that.
That's horrible. I've been in that situation myself personally a few times. So for a long time, even now, eventually at some point, always wanted to work with animals, always wanted to be working outdoors on the land. For a long time, I wanted to run a care farm, and then circumstances changed. So I lost my mate and then ended up starting my charity, Reach Out for Mental Health. But I remember as a teenager, I desperately wanted to volunteer at a local wildlife hospital. And I phoned them and asked for them for some work experience. And I spoke to the person that was running it. And she's an incredible person. I've spoken to her on a number of occasions because I've ended up taking my chickens, who I used to have as pets, to her for my vet. Bit weird. But at the time, as a young person, when I was looking at, doing a voluntary work, and she just kind of got me down, and I was bereft, just thinking, well, that's it then. What the hell am I supposed to do with my life? I remember just for weeks having just this emptiness and this kind of loss and feeling, well, what am I supposed to do with myself now? And that was really, really hard.
You can't buy purpose. That's it. You've got to feel it.
No
you
purpose,
can get a job, or you can go somewhere, you can spend money to go somewhere, but if you don't feel like you're moving forward, that vitality that we have in life, it's a privilege. The kids have it every second of their life is vital. It's like everything. That flower is the most important flower I've ever looked at. I'm going to go and show someone I've just picked this flower. So important.
So aside from being on stage, what gives you joy?
This is going to sound like a bit, but I'm being serious. A jacket potato in the bath, in a bowl, and watching people play Minecraft on my phone that's balanced on the toilet is the best. is the best feeling I've ever felt outside of the affirmation of being on stage, because it's vicariously, if they're good at it, I'm like, I'm good at it. Do you know that? Because that's what it is when we watch people play games online. We're like, that's me doing that, and I'm really good at it. But also can't beat a hot potato and a bath. So it's like being in the womb and I'm being fed, and I'm watching Minecraft, which is really, it's like a dopamine drip to the brain. And I'm not quite sure why, but it's like I feel very successful when I'm there in the bath. I guess it's like what a privileged life I've got to, where I can do this and no one's knocking on my door and asking to repossess my stuff, or like those were genuine worries in the past with my family. I've get really anxious about money, like because there was times when all of our stuff might have disappeared at one time or another. That's a trauma that doesn't go away as well. That's proper trauma. Is like the fear of someone entering your house because of a made up system of rules, ones and zeros that you didn't play properly, and now they're going to take away all your things that you like. That's especially when you're young, that's a really weird childhood trauma. But yes, Minecraft makes me really happy because it's designed to reward you for every single thing that you do. And in our life, we delay reward like a lot. If you've got a project that's going to take 6 months, I've got to wait 6 months to find out if that's going to be rewarded. But in Minecraft, you hit a little block and it goes bling. I'm like, that felt amazing.
I get it now. I get why Nancy's so desperate to play Minecraft. I'm just like, no, you're 7. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not letting you play that. Get it now.
Right. Yeah. It's life changing.
And when the way that you would have coped with, that kind of fear of, and some of the moments that you touched upon when you was younger, when you thought everything wasn't as it should be, to more recent times, and like, what has your coping mechanism for kind of trying to look after your mental health always been the same? If it hasn't, how has it changed as you've grown up?
I think there's no denying, obviously, I'm a transgender person, and pre and post that, there's probably, one of the big gifts of being transgender is you have to look at yourself a lot deeper than other people even ever get the opportunity to do. Most people don't examine their gender because they're happy. There's so much attached to examining yourself. So pre and post that, things definitely changed. I'd say I was definitely one of those kids that thought, because I wasn't good at anything physical, or I didn't have, like, I wasn't really good at friends, the subject of friends, but I was good at brain things, despite the way I just phrased that sentence. I was really smart, and because of that, I put so much value in my brain that I was one of those people. I think a lot of people are like this. You think, if I'm just really smart, I don't have to put in that much effort ever, because I could just show up and do my homework, or show up and do this, and that would apply to other things in life. I'm like, well, I'm so smart. If I don't have a job, I just get a job. I won't like it, but I'll just get one. It'd be so easy. And then I hit a point in professional life, and when it filters back into your social life, I realized, oh my God, the most successful people in the room, they're a lot not as clever as me, but they've got a lot more humility, and they're working a lot harder than I am. It's like, oh, bloody hell, I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Doesn't matter if I'm smart. I'm an idiot, because I think that being smart is the most important thing. So when I started working really hard, like, that's all I do now, and I am proud of how hard I work. Plus I combine the old brain power, I've got, things have gone really well. It's that combination. The hardest working person in the room is going to be the most successful. And I put that into other things in life. I don't just assume that I'm right when I have disputes with, I don't really have a dispute with my wife. I'm very, very lucky. We've got like a lovely relationship. But if there's anything that comes up, I don't just assume I'm right. I would have assumed I was right before I transitioned. Now it's like, it's entering into a pool of feelings. Let's swim around in these feelings for a little bit. It's great. Everything's much more peaceful in my life.
So how was you managing your mental health before you transitioned?
Badly, very, very badly, because I just attach all of my happiness to my professional success. And it hasn't necessarily gone away, but I've just realized how subjective it is. So I was only happy when things were going well. So I threw myself into work, full on workaholic, because I was an alcoholic for a little while. Not good thing to be, but that can't blame people. It's publicly sort of endorsed to drink as much as you can in this country.
Yeah.
I've been sober now for like 12 years or something like that, which means I've never had a drop of alcohol in my blood at the same time as I've been taking estrogen. So it's like I've just full on chemically changed. So when I quit alcohol, I never had a cigarette. I've never done any drugs or nothing except for magic mushrooms, which is really good. But also, for balance, don't do drugs. They're bad. Because I was like self-medicating. I just love the work. It just hits the right dopamine spot, and that's not a healthy way to deal with it. But it is the thing that people don't talk about. I don't know if we've talked about this before, Stu. So let's just, if we have, it's a good thing to say. People talk about workaholism, and there's different types of workaholism. But what if you like work in an ice cream factory and you love your job? That's not a bad thing to be obsessed with. Like there's functional workaholism because you really enjoy what you do. You're like super into like music. People like I don't know, the great composers or whatever. I mean, I wasn't there, so I'm paraphrasing or whatever, but I suspect they weren't blamed for being workaholics. They were just geniuses in their field. But if you're a CEO of a company and you work too hard, it's like workaholism. What if you make chocolate? It's great.
Stop saying these things, right? I'm now picturing myself in a chocolate factory, right? Yeah. Not in a fun one, like in a world of pure imagination. I'm in an ice cream factory, and I'm a workaholic. And the only thing that I can draw from that, Jordan, is the fact that Channel 5 will make a documentary where they have to get a building firm in to remove a wall to crane me out because I'm just mainlining fucking ice cream 24 hours a day.
That's such a Channel 5 thing.
The man that ate too many feasts.
Man. Man that ate too much. But yeah, like, we don't talk about being obsessed. I've always been obsessed with obsession. That's a stupid sentence, but yeah, I love
that. So should have been a name for one of your albums.
Yeah. God, that would be the most pretentious thing. But at the time, I'd have thought, I'm changing the world with this. I've
just heard Jordan's difficult second album.
Talking about difficult second albums. So I had a wonderful show in 2022.
Didn't you?
And that's changed my life forever. My mental health now is all wrapped up in bloody hell, I've got to deliver on this second show. It's got to be, if I don't top it, what am I doing with my life? That's like a huge part. So I'm sort of struggling with that a little bit. And it's a bit self-imposed, but I think it's fair to say people are going to be disappointed if it's rubbish, because that's true of everyone that does their thing. I've put my head above the parapet now. Got a big head. I've got big hair. You're not going to miss my head above a parapet. And
just don't be shit.
Thanks. Yeah, that's it. I'm so thinking about it so much that I think the only way I can get over it is if I open my next show with a song about how good the last show was, and be like, and now I'm really worried about this being good. Dun dun dun. It's playing on my mind a bit.
Sneak preview, brilliant. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Well,
yeah.
we saw. Was that your work in progress there?
Yeah.
Also,
that's the length of my shows now. I'm very spoiled.
Well, you say that. I mean, did you watch the documentary on Netflix about who's the guy, the Scottish kind of Ed Sheeran-y? Oh, I should know his name. Singer-songwriter.
The singer.
Yeah.
Lewis Capaldi.
Lewis Capaldi. Like, did you watch the documentary on him on Netflix about him writing his second album?
Not about his writing his second album, but I've seen clips from that for sure.
It's an interesting watch. Yeah. That he's it's not necessarily my sort of music. I find him quite an interesting character. Yeah. And just watching the pressure of having to follow up success, like with that second record, was really quite fascinating. But I want to go back a little bit, and I hope you don't mind me asking this, Jordan. But
no.
But we're
I love doing that to you. There's not many people that I can do that with because they don't know I'm joking. No.
Well, it's been lovely chatting anyway, Jordan. Yeah. But we obviously Reach Out for Mental Health is a suicide prevention charity, and I know that we've spoken before. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a moment where things got pretty bleak for you, wasn't there? Where was this in Southend Seafront? Am I right?
This was I think this is where I find out if this is the same story that I've told you. If it's a different story, then my life perhaps has been even more bleak than I thought it was. I suspect what we're talking about is when I'd done my first single off the back of The Voice, and I was so obsessed with it, so obsessed with the numbers, and that's all I could think about. And then our plan was that it had to hit the top 40, and it got to 114, which is one worse than the fictional Ricky Gervais character David Brent's terrible album single got to. I was like, it was just like a cosmic joke. And then I got dropped from a label straight off the back of it. And that was it. I was like, well, what? Maybe that's a little period of time. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do now then? And I just remember I walked in front of this car in Hornchurch where my dad lived, and it stopped sarcastically slow. I was like, it was never going to hit me, but it's the sort of the thought that counts, that is the case. It's an awful thing to do. And I was just it was awful. It's a horrible feeling because I was just like, I'll take myself out of the equation because the numbers didn't work. It's like the Matrix. It's like the numbers didn't add up. Right. So I'm out of this. Then I'm checking out this game. And then big turning point for me was I kept describing it to people, like not many people, but like my wife, for example. I'd be like, oh, I can't believe how stupid it was. And she was like, selfish is the word. It's the selfish thing to do. The thoughts themselves, not selfish. Thoughts themselves, that's par for the course. That's occurred. That's just the chemical imbalance. That circumstance is bad that you got those feelings. That's not nice. To walk in front of someone else's car, selfish as fuck. That's a terrible, terrible thing to do. And it changed my whole perspective on it because it just brought some gratitude back into my life. And when you're feeling that bad, that low, the last thing on your mind is being grateful for stuff. You're like, there's nothing to be grateful for. I'm checking out. you inject some gratefulness, even if fake it till you make it gratitude, changes everything. A little bit of gratitude is amazing. It's so counterintuitive. I feel awful. The world has knocked me down. I'm going to thank it. And you're like, oh, actually, yeah, there's some connection there. So it's gratitude. You can't be grateful in a vacuum. You have to connect to something to be grateful for, or someone to be grateful for, and then start to make those connections. That was a proper sentence I done there. Do you remember earlier when I said brain things instead of smart? I've made up for it now with a sentence that was quite eloquent.
No,
yeah, we're still
really
going.
So was that? Do you remember that being a build-up then, or was it like the way you described it? It sounded like it was quite an impulsive decision. Was it just you didn't really think about what you were doing, or had you considered it? Or... Full
on. Like, there's also a sense of romanticizing your own mythology, which is dangerous as well. We are a storytelling species. We love stories. In fact, it's in our DNA. We need stories to live. First thing a kid wants when it can speak is to be told a story. But when we get addicted to our own stories and we become so embroiled in them, that if that story takes a turn, it's devastating. It's like you're their own hero in your hero's journey, and once you reach that completion, it's like, well, what else is there? And I remember it was just numbers. Like, we just didn't hit the number, and I got dropped from a label. It's like, all right, well then I have failed, and I'm not a person that fails. I don't even start stuff unless I think I would be good at it. So it's like, right, well then I'm not the person I thought I was. And it was. But yes, that was what I was going to say. I was like listening to, I won't say what I was listening to because it's a good song and I don't want to spoil that song for people. But I was listening to the song. It was all romantic. I was like, right, I'm going out at the peak of this like emotional thing. There's a lot of ego tied up in it. And that's something that's really interesting to me, is the experiences of ending it, or thoughts of ending it, aren't cookie cutter. They're different for everyone as well. That's what's so interesting. There's different flavors. So there's so much we can share, and there's and feelings that we can share. There's loads of comparable experiences, but that's not the experience that I've heard other people describe to me when they've hit that rock bottom. And that's quite revelatory, that there's so many situations that can escalate and spiral, and they can be impulsive or they can be thought out. I'm not qualified to really dive any deeper than that. I'm not quite sure why I'm teaching my granny to suck eggs on this podcast about this is your world. You know what you're talking about.
How did you feel after that? And you spoke to your wife and she basically gave you a bit of a bollocking. Did you kind of put it to bed and thought, right, that's that, not doing that again, let's just crack on and focus and look at the next thing?
I remember, well, I decided, that's what, actually, to be fair, that's when I decided I wanted to be a comedian, which changed everything, because it was like a joke. It was like a big joke. I was listening to this song earlier in the day and I was humming that song. Won't say what the song is. And then I walked out in front of this car humming that song. I'm laughing, not crying. And then when I got to the other side and it was all didn't happen, feeling very numb, I realized I wasn't humming the song I thought I was humming. I was humming Waltzing Matilda by accident, like some bizarre Australian expat that had decided to end it all. And it was just like, it didn't make me laugh, but I was like, this is all a joke. This is all a big joke. And then if I'm going to be a joke, might as well be in on it. And then that's how I end my show, is with the line, if I'm going to be a joke, I might as well be in on it, because that's all we've got, really. So it informed my life a lot more than I thought it did. At the time, I just thought it's this very stupid thing to do, but I guess it's had a knock-on effect for sure. I guess you kind of got to give it purpose, and maybe you don't. Maybe don't put that pressure on yourself to give it any purpose. Sometimes these are just lapses in judgment, but if you can give it some meaning, it certainly helps. Like strong meaning, then it helps going forward. You can always go back to that meaning and what it's done for you.
What do you do now to maintain a nice level of well-being?
I don't have much of a reaction to anything except laughter. I laugh quite a lot.
And she's in the bath eating a jack of potato watching Minecraft.
Yeah, right now you don't know what's going on below the waist. Now I'm in a lovely warm bath. It's I get, so people say such horrible things and such lovely things at the same time. Not the same people, that'd be odd. Across social media is poison, but it's also quite useful, especially in our job, because we need to get the word out. It's hard to wade into all of that. So what I've done is I live on such an even keel. The waveform of my life, to describe it to listeners, is I don't know why I even need it. It's a straight line. I don't know why I needed to feel like, my life doesn't go up and down. So I don't feel any of the negativity that's coming at me, but what that means is it sort of shaves off the positives a little bit. I can't take a compliment. I don't deflect them. I just don't really feel them. I never feel when anything goes well, and I don't really feel when anything goes bad. I'm not putting that out there as a universally, it's not an admirable defense mechanism, coping mechanism, but it works for me. life's fine. My life is fine. And occasionally it's outstanding. And those are some lovely moments to look forward to. But I'm all right with fine until the outstanding things happen. I used to just be addicted to the outstanding and everything had to be amazing all the time. I suppose it's like, I hesitate to self-diagnose because that's not the case. I didn't used to fluctuate between a manic state and a depressive state. It was just manic. Everything was manic. And I think I became a bit addicted to that, to the mythology and the romanticism of being a manic character. That's why so many, like, I love the Joker. I think he's great. But there was this, I remember a movement at the time of people talking about, it's a movie for like incel guys, it's like romanticizes this idea of this loner that's sort of falling apart. I think there's something to be conscious of, not necessarily wary of, but you do get a lot of young men, for example, that they gravitate towards these anti-hero characters, and it's never balanced out with any sort of connection with other people.
How do you talk us? You touched on
otters. Sorry, I didn't know if you'd forgotten.
Yeah.
I love it when you do a serious joke face. I'm right, because I see your face. I love your face. I love it when you do your little smile. But when you go into doing a pretend serious bit about something, you go so serious. It's so indistinguishable.
And he gets all pointy, doesn't he? He gets all pointy when he's really trying to drill down to the point.
If I had to describe you as an animal, Stu, what I'd say is you're digging your little hole. You're an otter. You're an otter, mate.
Loving it.
Sorry to interrupt what I'm sure it's going to be.
Sorry,
I can't even remember what I was going to say now.
I described earlier, I touched on
social media.
Yeah.
So like, because in generations younger than my generation and yours, the impact and the time, I'm looking at the way that my children spend their time, and so I tell you how I'll frame this. So
listeners, Stu is pointing.
Are you finding
his fingers akimbo at the moment?
Can't help it.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. You're going to be acutely aware of this every time.
Yeah,
now,
I know. I
wonder if you do it on all of your very many podcasts.
Yeah, he does, but he does put cute in acutely aware. He puts the cute.
Yeah, and sometimes I have them big foam American gloves with the big fingers.
Sorry if that was too loud on the
mic. It's interesting because when I speak to musicians on Off the Beaten Track, a lot of them now tell me that the way that they write their music now, they're considering things like TikTok, which, because songs can become very successful very quickly on TikTok, but you're generally getting a minute of it. And I've found now when I'm DJing that the generations coming through get excited when they hear a new song, and then after about a minute, you can see that their interest is waning, and I find that quite terrifying that life moves at a speed like that. I mean, I'm 50 years old, so it's not designed for me. Does any of that, Jordan, filter through into your creative process as a comedian? Because again, it's a very fast-paced industry anyway, that telling jokes, not I know your style is not exactly sort of Jimmy Carr's bang 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 bang, like, but
there's the fingers again,
like there they are, but
yeah.
But
yes,
do you know where I'm going with this?
Absolutely, I 100% agree, and I think it's one of those cases where I think you can apply it to other industries as well. But the only way I could survive that was to give it the respect it deserves. I've got all respect for like a high fructose corn syrup diet, if that's what you want. It's not a very responsible thing to peddle to people, but it's delicious. I want to create stuff that is nourishing. That other stuff is you can pound like 6 Big Macs and still be hungry later, but God, they were tasty at the time. I want to create stuff that's a bit more nourishing. The only problem is you can't sit on that fence. You can't sometimes think about what TikTok wants and sometimes think about what you want. That's the reason I walked in front of a car, is because we just started, I suddenly started asking, what do people want to hear instead of what do I actually want to make? And I keep getting told off all the time for saying it's a shit song that we recorded. It's not, it just doesn't sound anything like me. It sounds like 12 producers made it, because we're all wondering what TikTok wants. TikTok's great. I've looked on it today, and I'm not even really on it, and I'm doing quite well. so TikTok, if you're listening, thanks for everything. But yeah, I want to create stuff that for a small audience that is really into it, like Jeff Buckley. Not enough people knew who he was when he was alive, but the people that knew him thought he was a walking angel. And I think I'm one of those people, but he's not mainstream, is he? Because he does very unusual things with his mouth and fingers in a musical sense.
You've made a friend in Kirsty there.
And he's just
we
the
have
most amazing
never
person.
mentioned Buckley on this podcast.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Oh my God.
Amazing. Thank you, Jordan.
That would be one to unpack, wouldn't it? Because I've always thought with Buckley, I'm always conscious that let's not go off on a tangent. This is not a tangent. Let's tie it back. People think of him as being this tragic figure, this Byron-esque figure, but he's proper goofy. He's in a lovely way. He was just such a goof in real life. And then his songs, this amazing sort of archetypal, like animus of a person. It's like this magical thing. But he was a proper goof in real life. And to not and to have that balance is important. I'm a proper idiot. I think I'm a fun idiot that tries not to upset anyone. But then the art is trying to be so elevated. So, oh God, it's got to be the most impressive and important thing. And it's all right to have those two gears, maybe. This is quite, I guess it is quite for artists.
You think you need to have that light and shade to keep you sane, don't you?
Yeah. I think that is very, very important. Otherwise things spiral out and you become obsessed with your own mythology. And then, becomes quite fragile, ironically, yes, it definitely affects the process, and trying not to keep a foot in what people want to hear. It's a weird thing to say because you don't want to make something they don't want to hear. It's got to be authentic. Just do what you do very, very well, elevate that, and people find you. And if you're lucky, that's a broad enough audience. I would like broad mainstream success. Do you remember that Christmas special of Extras, Ricky Gervais's Extras? And he's sitting in a restaurant with his manager and the person that's getting loads of success above him. And he says, do you want to be rich and famous and off the telly, or do you want integrity and respect? And Ricky Gervais is like, both. And he goes, well, I'm going to tell you something now. There's only a handful of people in this life that have both those things, and you will never be one of them. And it proper hurt me. It was like, I must have hit so many people because that's the dichotomy, isn't it? That's the struggle. I think it's all right to aspire to the very, 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 very best things that you want, but then you have to give all of yourself. And I don't know how healthy that is.
It's about balance, right?
Yeah. I've done a little hesitation when I said that because I didn't want to admit it. It's so true. It is about balance. I just don't like having to compromise, but of course it's about balance.
Yeah.
Don't want to get to where I'm going in life and end up I can't. My knees are so buggered. Sorry for swearing. On your podcast, they're so buggered from my live show, and if I extrapolate that, because I throw myself around like a maniac for effect, so it's amazing. But I might not be able to do a show in 4 years if I keep treating my knees like this. Of course, it's about balance. Yeah, you got to. Maybe it's not about pulling punches, just about not throwing yourself around on your knees.
I can just suddenly see you in your next show dressed as the Joker, wearing knee pads and elbow pads.
That health and safety, proper art. Like Bill Hicks. Imagine Bill Hicks with a crash helmet. That's it. That's me. Spiritually speaking, I'm Bill Hicks in a crash helmet.
Love it. Well, look, we've kept you for nearly an hour, Jordan.
This is such a great podcast. Well done, both of you, and thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, Jordan. So we're nearly at Christmas. So obviously, a very happy Christmas to you and your wonderful wife. What's happening in 2024? Not in the world, in your world. My
world. I shall hope that those two things will collide at some point, and I would say fingers coming back in. And I think that so I'm the luckiest person in the world. I've got so many scripted projects that are going to be popping up in different places, but also they've got me on that conveyor belt of panel shows at the moment, so you're going to see me pop up on all those panel shows. I think the next thing you'll probably see is like QI, done Rod Gilbert's thing. I'm gonna do that House of Games. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. Doesn't matter. It's all good. But just like loads and loads of things. And then off the side of that, they're sending me around the world. Oh, I'll probably do America next year. Yes, America next year. Same show. Going to do New York, and then LA and San Francisco is on the cards, but New York's the big one. In probably the winter of next year. I don't think I'm going to take another show around the world till 2025. I'm going to milk Is It a Bird for a while. That's the name of my show. But thank you for asking. I will also be endeavoring to make strides in my own mental health, as everybody should, but also don't put pressure on yourself. That's kind of the secret, Think about it. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole. or the otter.
Or the otter
Warren.
bowl.
If people want to keep up to speed with everything that you're going to be doing, where's the best place to follow you, Jordan?
Follow me on social media at Tall Dark Friend. Don't ask me what it means. I didn't know when I made it up. I don't know now. Tall Dark Friend on social media. And I think jordangraylive.co.uk for live shows. There won't be anything on there till the beginning of the next year. But well done. And thank you for having me. This is real bloody nice.
Jordan,
I needed to get another swear word in before we finish.
It's always an absolute fucking pleasure to see you, mate.
That's nice.
We very rarely swear. It's normally me that X and Jeff, so that's good.
I'm going to press stop, but don't go anywhere.